focus on the new. And the definition of new is not existing before. So when something is new, it hasn't existed before, or it's newly made, or it's being introduced because it's new, discovered recently, or now for the first time. And the reason we're talking about new is I want you to start thinking about what is happening in your life that is new. What do you need to happen in your life? Come on, think of, you know your life better than I know your life. Where do you need some new stuff? Where do you need some new things, right? The new will challenge the old. The new, anytime you do something new, it's going to challenge the old. What would I look like up here in platforms and a briefcase with my cell phone saying, this is my cell phone? Don't act, I'm not the oldest one in the room. Some of y'all got platforms still in your closet right now. Stop. You almost warned this morning. Like, you think, and God said no. But there was a time, literally, anybody remember when the car phone was in the car? You literally, and some of y'all are looking like, what? There was a time, literally, and you couldn't go anywhere. It was a little cord. But to challenge that, someone was like, there has to be a better way. We're living on the benefits of somebody making a decision to do something new. What I'm challenging you to think about is, I believe if you will challenge your old, you can get ready to live something new. Right? I tell people all the time, I look at movies and I look at, read stuff and history. I'm like, I'm really happy I'm born right now. I didn't want to grow up on no farm, milking nothing. Let my milk be inside the supermarket. Y'all need to know your pastor. I keep telling people, my idea, when people are like, oh, pastor, you want to go camping? I'm like, my idea of roughing it is when I go to the hotel and the room service stops at 10, I'm like, where are we? So there's no more sandwiches, like y'all closed. Like, that's my roughing it. I'm just letting y'all know. But what you have to start focusing on this is like, what is my new? The definition of focus is the center of interest, which means I'm using all of my activity. See, if you tell me you're focused on something, if I look in your phone, it should reflect that. Your calendar should reflect what you're focusing on. The videos you're watching, what you're liking in your Instagram should show me, yep, I can see they're focused on this. But when your activities are different from what you're telling me you want, you're not going to get what you tell me you want. You can't say, I'm going to look straight into the camera. You can't say you're going to lose weight and go to the state fair 9 times. I went to the state fair yesterday. I don't know if y'all saw this. Have y'all seen this on the news? This is epidemic. I was walking to the state fair, and food was just flying in my mouth. I was like, what? I was in line, and somebody I knew from church walked by, and they said, oh, pastor, I see you. I said, these are diet donuts. And this guy in the line, I did not turn around, so I laughed, and I was like, don't walk on my beliefs. What I'm standing God for, what I'm trusting in God, you don't know. What are you focusing on? Right? Here's what it says in the Bible. It says, forget the former things. If you don't stop remembering your mistakes, your failures, your shortcomings, you can't enjoy this new stuff. And sometimes, we talk a lot about who's my problem, and this person at work, or this person over here, this family member. But truth be told, we are some of the most negative talking people to ourselves. Now, be honest. If you let somebody else talk to you the way you talk to yourself, you'll be ready to fight. But you will get out of bed, you will look in a mirror and let yourself tell you how bad you are, the mistakes you've made. You can't do it. You can't overcome it. But the Bible says forget that. And then don't dwell on it. Don't only forget about it, don't dwell on it. You know what dwelling looks like? You spend time with it. Some of y'all have a good sad story. It's good. Every time y'all tell me, I've been, Jesus, help them. Because it's good. Because you've dwelled on it. You've made your story good. First what happened? Well, no, I fell down then. Then they hit me with the car. No, wait. I stubbed my toe and then stop. You know when you've been telling somebody a story and they don't really get it, you have to go back with more emotion. No, seriously, and then I fell. Fell down. All the way. You want people to react to your sadness. But why not have people react to your goodness and your excitement? Right? He says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. But not only the bad stuff, but even the good stuff. This is how I get blessed. Anytime God has blessed me, he's done it this way. And God's saying, stop putting me in a box. Yeah, I bless you that way, but I am unlimited. I may bring you a blessing in a way that you can't even imagine. And who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Who am I to tell God, you can't do it that way? This is how you work, God. You don't understand. Let me help you understand. Who are you to do that? But here's what he says. Right after that, he says, forget the former things. He says, but see, open your eyes. He says, I'm doing a new thing. But if you can't focus on new, you're not going to recognize it when it comes. If you can't, seriously, that's why some of you are wearing stuff and people are like, you should really retire that. Have you had any friends tell you, just put that up? Let me help you, because I think somebody needs help. When you ask people, what you think, and they go, that girl, they don't really answer. I'm trying to help you because you're taking it the wrong way like it's cute. When you go, what do you think? And they go, I see you. I see you. God's preaching this morning. He preaching. When you say, I see you, that is a line to say, take that off and throw it away. Now, the other one is different. I told you this a few weeks ago, especially in the African-American community. I can't talk about all communities, but in our community, if you do have on something that they like, they may not even phrase the whole thing, but if they say something like you have all polka dots on, they come up, you say, okay, polka dots? That is a different compliment. Y'all see some of y'all shaking. You know, only in our community, you don't even acknowledge the whole thing. Okay, dude, okay, hair. All right, I'm just saying, I'm helping you. He says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now. When is he doing it? Right now. Right now. He's doing it right now. And you're like, well, I don't understand it. He's doing it right now. He says, it springs up. Pastor Jori put online when she put some stuff in the garden, and then we went outside, and we were actually laughing, shocked, and then saying, what are we doing all at the same time? Because these peppers are like humongous. I mean, huge. They were dangling and hanging. We had cucumbers, and we were like, oh my gosh, look at this. And then we kind of laughed like, well, isn't this how it works? You plant it and water it, and it grows. But see, we didn't always perceive the little plants that were coming up at first. We didn't recognize the small things that were happening. I've come to tell some of you, you got some small stuff coming up. You see a couple of things, you're like, this might be it. That is God saying, I'm springing up now. Do you not perceive it? Are you not catching this? He says, I'm making a way. You don't even have to figure this out. You just got to show up. You just got to show up. I tell people all the time, many of you know I was in corporate America for 20 plus years. I used to tell all my employees, hundreds of employees, I say, just show up at work. If you just come to work, good stuff will happen with you just being here. All you got to do sometimes is show up with God, be like, I'm here. Come on, God, let's do something. He says, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. That means for everyone who feels like they're lost, God knows exactly where you are. He says, I will come in your wilderness, I will come in your wasteland, and I will bring water to you. For everyone who thought you were about to die, who everyone thought this is it, everyone thought they're about to give up, I've come to tell you, God is bringing water your way. And he's making ways out of no way. All you got to do is keep living a little longer, keep walking a little further, keep breathing another breath. Who are you to deny that God can show up and do something in your life? But today in this series, I'm going to talk about something specific today called split-second decisions. Split-second decisions. We're still talking about focusing on the new. But what I've come to tell you is when your new opportunity comes, sometimes it's going to be a split-second choice. Like you're going to have to, before you say, well, maybe, let me call, you missed it. Right there, you're going to miss an opportunity because he's getting ready to do something quick. Now, a split-second decision, by definition, is this. It is a very short moment of time. When you have the opportunity to make a split-second decision, it's quick. Split-second decisions are extremely precise, which means it's like, I got to do it, right? This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. It's not vague. It comes right up in you. You feel it. You have a thought. It's like, do it. Take it. Come on, go. So when this new thing comes, I'm telling you, some of you are going to have split-second decisions. Do you want to take the job? Yep, I do. Your head can be like, you're not qualified. We're looking for somebody in the classroom to come up to the front of the board. Split-second decisions. But sometimes your split-second decisions can make a difference. This happened to me while I was at college. We had a forum that we had Johnson & Johnson, a company I later wound up working for. I was telling the sheriffs earlier, I was a drug dealer for many years. And she was looking at me like, I was like, take the cuffs, hey, calm it down. I was like, to see, y'all was going to be on Instagram. Pastor, no, it was pharmaceuticals, I said, no, for drug companies, I did. She was like, oh, okay. But when I worked for this company, but before that, I was in college, and we were at this big forum, right? And the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, which is, the amount of billions that are behind that role, I can't even tell you. But we were in this Ogden Hall, it's a hall on campus, and they had microphones set up, and they said, they did this speech, they did this talk, and he talked, and he said, anyone have any questions? Anyone? And nobody moved. And I was like, he said, young man, come on up, come up. So I went to the mic, and then while I was going, I was like, God, give me something to say, give me something to say, give me something to say. And I asked something, and he said, wow, he said, what a profound question. So he answered the question, and he said, okay, thank you so much. And he sat down, I think maybe one other person answered. So they were closing out, and then he said, hey, before we leave, this other person was up, and he was sitting down, and he said, before we close, where's that young man? Could you come see me after this? The one who stood up, and then you were like, hey, I'm right here. I'm right here. You saw, hey. Afterwards, he came up, he said, find him a job or something. Split-second decisions. He told the staff, he's like, I got to go. He said, you are amazing. He said, you're going to do great things. He said, find him something. We need people like him in our company. Are you missing split-second decision opportunities? There are choices that you make about something after thinking about it for a very short time. Now, I'm not saying be reckless, but I am saying open your eyes and perceive when there's an opportunity, okay? So, anybody know this man? Yeah. Martin Luther King, right? I think it was as of yesterday, it was the official 60-day anniversary of the talk in Washington on the monument. You guys remember that? Split-second decisions. I don't know if you all know the history about this, but on August 28th, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. approached the podium after staying up all night writing a speech. So it's this huge crowd. We've all seen it on the film. And he's walking up. But he did something he normally didn't do. He normally doesn't have notes. He would just get up and speak, be inspired of what to say. But for this particular one, he stayed up all night. He wrote this thing out. And then when he got up to the microphone, he was saying things in the speech, and he's reading it. But as he delivered it, he came to a line that he was feeling in the moment wasn't quite right. He was literally doing it. Now, you've got to imagine, now this shows you can be conscious and doing something at the same time. He was speaking and doing this, but while he was living and doing it, something was saying that's not the right thing. Split-second decisions. So then it says, as he did that, and he was standing there, and he started talking, and he continued on. It said, off to the side, Mahalia Jackson, who had sang earlier, shouted out to him, tell them about the dream, Martin. In the moment he felt he needed to do something different, a voice came to tell him what to do. Listen to what I'm saying. Sometimes when you're in the middle of doing something and you know right now this isn't the right thing, it'll come externally, it can come internally, but it'll be a feeling like, wait. And it says, as he heard that, he looked over the crowd, and he went off script, and he said, you know what, today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. Then he went on an entire different direction. I don't know anything about the beginning of this speech that I've seen multiple times. One time I even had to memorize the speech. I can't even tell you the first half, but I know where he says, I have a dream. And he starts talking about, I have a dream that one day my boys and girls will join hands and be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. A split-second decision changed history. He could have missed the moment and said, well, I wrote this thing all night. Let me stick with this. But there was something that came up with him that said, it's time. Split, change, go in a different direction right now. He did not have time to be like, everybody, can you all hold on? I'll be right back. Stay where you are. I can't even remember the number, but hundreds of thousands of people out there. Now, wouldn't it be crazy right now in the middle of this? I said, I don't know if this is the right scripture. I'll be right back. Y'all stay right there. Now, y'all got about 13 seconds, and watch, somebody's going to be like, well, I got to go. This right here. Split-second decisions. I want you to be aware that to get into this new season, God may be challenging you to do stuff quick. Like, stop being mean. You say stuff that's mean. You know you say stuff, well, I just had to say it. Well. You got 3 people in your family right now. I just had to see it. I just had to say this. Right? You got to remind yourself, like, I'm in a new season. See, and here's the other thing. If you're fighting for God, how can God fight for you? If you're getting in front of God like, God, I got this, how can he fight for you? How can he do for you? But in this season, I'm challenging you. You may have to do some things differently. You may have to be kind to people you don't want to be kind to. You may have to go to work and act like you like work. Some of y'all show up on time tomorrow at work, think I'm like, you okay? You quitting? What's wrong? Why are you here on time? Stop that. Do something new. Be on time for work. But let me show you what happened in the Word of God where a man has an opportunity to do a split-second choice. So it's called in this section, if you're reading the Bible, in certain Bibles, it gives you a title of before you get into each chapter or section. And in this section, it says, push out into deep water. This is what it is. If you were literally old school reading the Bible in front of you, came to this section, you're reading through the Bible, you're turning pages. When you get to Luke 5, 1 through 4, in this section, the top part says, push out into deep water. Here's what happens. So once, when he was standing on the shore of Lake Gennesaret, that was Jesus, the crowd was pushing in on him to better hear the word of God. So Jesus is preaching outside, there's a big crowd, and people are pushing in trying to get closer to hear him. So while he was preaching and he was seeing the crowd, he noticed two boats tied up. The fishermen, this is important, had just left them and were out scrubbing their nets. So Jesus sees these two boats, people are coming, he's like, and it wasn't all super spiritual. He was like, let me just get a little higher up so I can speak to the people. So he goes to the boats and he gets in the boat. And he climbed into the boat that was Simon's and asked him to put out a little from the shore. So he gets in his boat and he says to the guy who owns the boat, hey, Simon, could you push back a little bit so more people can see me? And he says, can you push out a little from the shore? And sitting there, he used the boat as a pulpit, just like I'm using this. And then he taught the crowd. Last week I told you, faith comes by hearing. After you hear some stuff, you get a little more excited or you get a little more consciousness, you get a little bit more belief of what you can possibly do. So Jesus has now preached to this crowd. When he was finished teaching, he then said to Simon, the same owner, he says, now push out into deep water and let your nets out for a catch. Doesn't sound too deep. These guys are fishermen. It's a boat and it's a net. Okay, that makes kind of sense. So Jesus says, hey, push out. Let's go do this. Now, here comes a split-second decision. Focus on the new. Okay, I'm pausing right here because I got to remind you. Focus on the new, especially when there's split-second moments. So he says to him, can you push out? Go into deep water. Let's go fishing again. And he replies, Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing, period. He is acknowledging his current situation right there. He's like, listen, okay, I appreciate what you're saying, but let me just give you some background. This is Fisher Companies and Sons. This is what I do for a living. You know, if somebody come and try and tell you what to do at work, first of all, you don't even work in this department. That's first of all. You know how y'all know how y'all be cursing people out without using the curse words. First of all, let me help explain something to you. I always tell people, when you see hands doing this kind of stuff, back up. Back up. When people doing this, like, listen, let me tell you, and if you see a finger up for too long, move out the way. Move out the way. Okay, but he says, Simon replied, he said, we worked hard all last night. How many of you have been working hard? Watch how this is turning out you now. How many of y'all, when's the last time you went home and said, this was the easy week? Oh my gosh, life is easy. I've come to tell all of you who are working hard, who are stressed, who are feeling like, I don't know if I can take another day of this. I keep working. He says, we worked hard all night. But if you say so, split-second decision. The story could have stopped and listen, man, we already done this before. We didn't work. We didn't catch nothing. I let you use my boat if you can get out so we can go on home. Because see, when you're washing your nets as a fisherman, that means the day is done. They were closed up for shop. They worked all night and it didn't add anything. Have you felt like you've been doing something but not seeing anything? Have you felt like you're working hard but nothing is coming from the work? He says, but if you say so, split-second decision. I'll let the nets down again. That goes against everything that makes sense in the moment. I told you, faith doesn't make sense. It makes opportunity for God to move. Faith does not make sense. This doesn't make sense. I know how to fish. We've done it all night. Another translation in the same scripture, he says, Simon said, Master, we've been fishing hard. We've been laboring all night, and we haven't caught a minnow. Anybody know what size a minnow is? Come home trying to talk about we got a 2-piece and a minnow for dinner. He stopped looking at his old and looked at the opportunity of his new. He said, but if you say so. But I don't know what Jesus preached while he was in that boat, but I guarantee you it was something about challenging you. I guarantee he must have been preaching about something that said, when it hasn't worked before, give me an opportunity to show you what God can do. I believe he had to be saying something because a man who all of a sudden knows about fishing is going to do something that makes no sense. But the same thing can happen to you this morning. While I'm preaching, while I'm talking, you might get up and say, I normally wouldn't do this on a Monday morning. This is not how you do my kind of job. But God, here I am. If you tell me to do something again, I'm going to do it. He says, I'll do it. Now, I need you to understand what do it means. There's a breakdown. Because, see, everybody want to get on the other side of the miracle and just be like, no, but there's process, baby. So first, he had to stop washing his nets. Because he was washing his nets. He let him use the boat. He moved the boat out, but they're washing their nets. They're cleaning up for the day. They had to stop what they were doing. For this new season, you may have to stop what you're doing. Then he had to call to his workers, say, hey, everybody, hey, get the nets back. We're going to go back out fishing. What? And his name was Simon. I always say, he had a nickname, Si. Si. We was out all last night, bruh. First of all, what I'm not doing after I worked all last night, we are not about to go back out and fish no more. What if you're going to have to stand in front of some people and look a little foolish with faith? Then they had to get in the boat, and I'm imagining this because there was no motors yet, so I'm imagining they had to row the boat back out. Now, you ever been working with people and you had to call something or been in charge of something and people mad at you? Can't you see people rolling? This joker right here. First of all, I was supposed to go home. We've been out here all night. But sometimes you're going to have to just stand like, okay, I'm the leader and I got to believe. I heard God. See, when you're in faith, you got to hold on a little while. Sometimes you got to keep trusting a little longer. You got to say, God, I don't know how this is going to work out, but it's not my job to know how. My job is to move into the new. My job is forgetting the former things and start pressing on towards the new things. I press on toward the mark this morning. I press on to what you said you're going to do. And then after they rowed all the way out there, he had to say, throw the nets in the water. They ain't going to no new ocean. They went back to the same water they were just in. They went back to where they already were. What if God is going to send you back to the same company, to the same people, to the same relatives that you don't like and say, throw it out? You're going to be like, Jesus. Some of y'all getting guilty right now. Invite them to Thanksgiving. You done had a whole quiet Thanksgiving. Don't post nothing so they don't see it. You tell them I'm telling the truth. You got family members. You're like, nobody posting, right? Nobody posts. Because we don't want them to know we was over here. He throws the net back in the water. Another thing that we just have a little time, let me tell you, you don't fish in the daylight because fish can see the nets. That's why they fish at night. What if God is going to have you do something that makes no sense? God, this don't even make sense. I mean, if we are going to do this, I would do it. Let me wait till nighttime. Let's go. But do it at the split second. So they go out. And when they had done this, done what? That process. Row out, get back in the boat, throw in the nets. They caught a great number of fish. God can bring you back to the same water, to the same company where they won't promote you, to the same school they won't give you the money, to the same doctor who said you had this disease. Whew! You can go back to the same place and be in the same room, and all of a sudden they went out to the same water, and all of a sudden it said a great number of fish they caught, to the point that their net was breaking. Now, I think you would have been happy just to get a few fish, because you're like, okay, well, this is good. But God says, I'll do exceedingly and abundantly. I've come to tell you something. You've been thinking too small. God is like, your new is so much bigger than your old. Your new is so much bigger than your old. You thought I was only going to do this. You've been praying for this. God, like, I'm about to blow this thing up in a way that everybody around you has to say, I ain't even saved, but that was a miracle. I love when stuff happens in my life with people who don't know God be like, listen, Chris, I don't even go to church, but that? Whew, you got that promotion? Yeah, I'll say it. So there was a time when I was working with this one company. A person came up to me who was in the company, found out that I had left one company to come to this company because they had asked me to come. It was a great job opportunity, but I had a company car over here. I come over here, I have no vehicle. This person found out and said, so you don't have a car? I said, no, I'm working on it. Actually, my dad is on the way to pick me up today. So, sorry, Jori and I are going to figure something out. He was like, huh. He's like, come to my house. Now you got to understand the house, because when I say this, he pushed a button and about 9 little garage doors went up. And I was like, well, the Lord has made a way. And he said, pick something to drive. I was like, now when you say drive, you better ask questions. I was like, when you say drive. So he said, take this one. He said, oh, this Range Rover's brand new. I've only had a couple weeks. Take that. Why don't you drive that until you figure stuff out? So now I drive home, and I know at night, and I walk in the garage. I come up from the garage in the house, and Jori said, I said, you just come look. Just go look. And she was like, whose car is that? His, so-and-so's. What you doing? He told me to drive it until we figure something out. Right? Time. Split second. I decided to leave a job in a company where I've been working for 7 years in 24 hours because he asked me to come help him run his company. My boss in my old company was like, oh, Chris, you're leaving Monday to go to this other, you feel you're okay? Is anything wrong at home? I was like, it's a split second. A split second, I just feel like this is the thing. 3 months later, here I'm driving somebody's brand new Range Rover. I was like, I wasn't driving this at the last company. Later on, I was doing some split-second decisions, and I was put in a situation at work where everybody was saying we should go one way, and I said, I know I'm new, but I don't really think that's the right way. Let me show you why I'm saying this. So I wrote some stuff out, I pulled some data together, and they were like, wow. And I said, this is my suggestion. So the man who was in charge of owning the company said, let's go with Chris's idea. Now I'm getting out this net, and I'm throwing it, but ain't no fish yet. I ain't lying. I'm telling you, when I was throwing this net, my hands was like, oh, Lord Jesus. When he told everybody in the company, we're going to go with Chris Thibodeaux's way, I was like, you have to tell everybody. That could have been a private little email. Things start to happen. I wind up going to New York. I pull this meeting together. Some great stuff happens. And something they could have never done. He told me, this is his word. He said, we've never been able to get to this level in this other organization, make this partnership. But here you did it in a few months. I was like, hey, okay, great. Right? So we get on the plane, and people are, there's like 6 of us, and they're like, Chris, man, well done. We're flying private on his jet, and we're in the air, and then he has a newspaper like this, and I'm sitting across from him. And he said, because I forgot a little part of the story. Before we get on this plane, go back 2 more weeks, one day I was walking through the office, and he said, how's that Range Rover treating you? I think it's good. And he said, what are you going to do today? I said, well, I got to go find an actual car now. This is great. Where are you going? I said, well, now that you got me thinking about Range Rovers, I'm going to go to a Range Rover dealership. When you hang with different people, it brings you to another level. So we go to the dealership. It's freezing cold. So the guy who's, the sales guy is driving me around the parking lot, and he says to me before I leave, he goes, I want to come. Yeah, come on, you come with me. So me, the guy who has the card and money, and then this guy here, we're driving around, and then we see a car, and he goes, do you like that one? And I said, yeah. He goes, and he goes in his pocket, and he hands the salesperson a card. He said, put the card on my car. I'm put the car on my card. Now, we're in the car, and I'm just trying to help you understand. When miracles show up, you be sitting, and I was sitting in the car like when the whole transaction happened, I was like, who buying what, bruh? Wait. So the sales guy was just gone. He's like, okay, thanks. And he gets out the car, and he runs. So me and him are sitting in the car now. I'm like, so he's like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Split-second decisions. He goes, don't worry about it. He said, you can figure it out. I know you just need a car. We'll figure this out. Fast forward. Now we're on this plane. Newspaper here. I'm sitting there. I do this thing that changes the company, does this setup. And while we're sitting there, he takes like this. The paper goes down like this. He goes, Chris. He goes, seriously, great job. I say, hey, thanks. I'm just happy I could contribute. And he goes, you know you're not going to pay me back for that Range Rover, right? Now, I was sitting in that seat. But on the outside, in the inside here, I was doing this. Come on, Jesus. Come on, won't he do it? But on the plane, I was sitting like this. No, I'll have a water, thank you. My inside, I couldn't even get it out. By the time we landed, I called Jori. Jori, he said, because at first I'm still cool. Okay, see y'all tomorrow. Okay, no, see you in the morning. No, yeah, all right. All right. See y'all, okay. I got in that car, I wasn't even out the parking lot. I said, Jori, this man done bought this car. He done paid for the Range Rover. I am telling you, with a split-second decision, when you trust God, when you go out and do the new thing, when you stand up and be who God calls you to be. It is time for the people of God to stand up. Let's go. There are Range Rovers, promotions, houses waiting on you. There are business opportunities waiting on you. But you're going to have to go back to some water that's like, this makes no sense. And he threw that net out. And it says they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. Get the visual. The people who were complaining, rolling back. Like, what in the world? They threw that net out. Can't you hear people talking? This makes no sense. Get this up, come on. It says, as soon as they did it. That's what one translation says. It says, as soon as they did it. And when they had done this, did what? Threw the net out. They caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they motioned to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. Can you imagine how much fish you have? Hurry up! Pull! The net is breaking. What if your blessing is getting ready to be so big it's going to take a strain? So they motioned to the partners of the business. Hey, hurry up, come on. So they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. Same water, odd time, wrong way. But when God gets in your life, when you give him the opportunity, stuff that don't work works. Stuff that don't make sense all of a sudden will make sense. Split-second decision. And when Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh, Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." Now, let me tell you something. I never noticed until recently when I read this story. They're in the boat. Right here. Let me go back. I want you to set something. So last thing Jesus says, Simon Peter, Master, we've been fishing all night. We haven't caught anything even in the middle. But if you say so, I'll let out the nets. They do the process. And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets was breaking. So they motioned to people to come to help. And then when Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus. Well, where was Jesus? Jesus was in the boat. He had to be. Because if they're doing the fishing part, it didn't say, and when they got back to the shore and they got out. He says, when did he realize what had happened? When he saw the net breaking, when he saw some more fish coming into here, that it was sinking, it said he fell before his knees. Let me tell you something. Jesus is going to be with you during this stretching period. You're going to try and do, well, I'm telling you, when that idea came at that business meeting, I heard it and I was like, this is going to be great. I'm new. What if they think I got something. I have an idea. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But all of a sudden, he realized this. But watch this. He says, "Oh, Lord." He goes, "I'm such a sinful man." You know why I think he said he was a sinful man? Because he didn't think it was going to work. I think he fell before Jesus like, "I'm so sorry, man. I was doing it, but I didn't really know you were going to do it." How many of you right there right now? Like, God, I mean, you've done some stuff in my life I didn't even know. I didn't even appreciate it. For he had all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken in. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee. So these are the guys in the other boat. So Simon's partners. And then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid about no fish, because from now on, you'll be fishing for people." What I'm come to tell you is some of this prosperity, and it's not about money, it's not about cars, but what I'm saying is about a confidence when you get to the point that Jesus has done some stuff in your life. And then you say, "Well, God, I didn't know when I was just working, trying to provide for my family. I didn't know 10 years later I'd be on stage telling this story, but had that not happened then, I wouldn't be able to preach with conviction now. But I know what it's like when you have to do something new. I know what it's like when you're being stretched. I know what it's like to go, it's just easier just to stay here and do this." But anybody know anything about an eagle? After she has her children and they feed them and whatever, then she actually starts to take the nest and turn it upside down so that the sticks are sticking up. And it makes the bird uncomfortable. And they can't sit anymore. And then over time, she just keeps pushing the sticks to the edge. So eventually the birds are on the edge and they have to leave and fly. I believe what God is doing for some of you, he's turning the sticks over. Making you realize, I gotta go for this. I just have to step out. Because come on, the truth be told, you don't want to stay where you are. Come on, if you're honest with yourself and honest with me right now, you're like, nah, I mean, it's not that it's bad, but it's not great. Or I know there's more. How many of you feel like this? Like, I just know there's more. I know my product is supposed to be here. I know I'm supposed to have this position. I know my children. I know I'm supposed to get married one day. You know it. I'm telling you, what you're going to have to do is tell your old life, that's done, and focus on your new life, because that's it. Did you get something out of the word this morning? Yes. Forgetting those things which are behind. Come on, you got to make a decision, okay? So some of y'all need to clean up house. You know what that looks like? Go through your phone and delete some people. You already got their name unblocked. You got it like, do not answer. So why are you keeping their number in your phone? I'm going to just call her real quick to see how she's been doing. Stop it. I'm going to let my old boss, stop reading old mail. You know what I'm talking about? Let me read it one more time. Then they going to say that. One time I got a really bad review with my boss. I read that thing like 10,000 times. Every day I was reading it like, he gonna say I was like, this is not helping me. I'm stuck. I'm stuck in somebody's opinion of me at that moment in time. You know, this just recently came back, but the Polaroid pictures, anybody remember Polaroids? Right? So when you take a Polaroid, at the moment you don't see anything, and then it starts to develop, right? But that's it. That's the picture. But in this digital world, I can take a picture of you now. In 30 seconds, I can take a new picture. In 30 seconds, I can take another picture. The difference is some of you are stuck on a Polaroid of what's happened in your life, the mistakes you've made, the stuff you've done. Look. The souvenirs you picked up along the way. Some of you got souvenirs you just can't return. I know. You try to take these kids back with receipts. They don't take them. I know some of you have been at the hospital like, no, is it a 30-day policy? This one right here, 30 days? No. So he got to stay all lifetime. Okay, get him in the car. We got to keep him. I understand this. But the reason God is saying focus on the new, because he has something better for you. Now listen, what I'm going to do for a second is this. I'm going to invite you to have an opportunity to let Jesus in your life. And when we say that, it can sound like, what do you mean in my life and in my heart? What do you mean? All I mean is you're going to say, Jesus, yeah, you know what? If you can come in my life and help me, I'll take the help. I tell people all the time, when you go to stores and you pick up items and they say it needs 2 people to lift it up, why are you going to lift it up by yourself? Okay, pick up this end, go over here and pick up this end. But if somebody walked by and said, hey, do you need some help? Oh, man, I'd take it, sure. You want me to lift it up for you? Yeah, I got it. I was on a call on Friday with a gentleman. I don't know if he dislocated his shoulder. It was on a Zoom. And so the other person said, oh, man, what happened? And he started telling this story. And she was like, how are you feeling? He was like, he goes, I feel pretty good. He goes, but I got to tell you. And this was a business meeting. He was like, I just got to tell you. He said, I'm just overwhelmed. And I was like, what's going on? He said, man, there's some kind people in the world. He said, I'm traveling and stuff. And he said, people are running. No, let me get your bag for you. No, let me help you. Do you need to? He's like, people, I don't know. And he said, you kind of forget there's such great people in the world. And while I was listening to him, I was like, but there's even a God that's better. And what I've come to tell some of you today is just give God a chance. You may not even understand all this yet. You're like, well, but if I just told you somebody wants to help, would you just let him help you? Get to know him over time. Then you'll understand it for yourself a little bit better. Can you bow your heads for 1 minute and close your eyes? If you're saying this morning,